It's Yuri Sokolov
and David Netanel.
And you're listening to the Transform Movers.
And welcome back to not the usual Microsoft offices.
Yeah, I think you should start with the elephant in the room. We're not in Microsoft.
We're not in Microsoft anymore.
This is the elephant, right?
Yeah, I hope so. Not the language thing.
Yeah, not the fact that we're speaking English. So for those of you who was surprised by this, it's not gonna happen often.
Yeah, at least not for the near future. We're kind of experimenting here with broadcasting in English.
For the people that's scared right now, that used to listen to us in Hebrew, and suddenly after a break, we're coming back and speaking English. That's actually not because we're trying to convert our podcast to English, because the name of our podcast would be hard to spell in English. It's because our guest, and let's introduce Arturo here. Arturo, usually what we do is we're giving our guests a couple of minutes to tell about themselves. Who are you? What do you do? And stuff like that.
Okay. So thank you. I guess I'm the reason and the reason that we're speaking in English, which is weird because it's not my first language either. But that's the language we can use to communicate.
It will make us look less silly.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, I'm Arturo. I'm originally from Mexico. I live in the US. Been living there for a while. I work at a company called Diversion, which is a company based in Israel. That's why I'm here.
It's a great point to pause, because we're sitting in the offices of Diversion currently. For those of you who are looking the video version of this podcast and not the audio version, it's quite important to mention that it's not because this episode is sponsored by Diversion or something. Basically, we planned to host this podcast in our regular spot at Microsoft, but our regular spot is undergoing some maintenance or renovations. I don't know. We'll see when we'll
see next week, I guess. Yeah.
And Diversion were nice enough to say to save the day and say, okay, come to our place and do the podcast here.
You invited us. It will. I think we're like saying, no, you cannot come. But
they did sponsor the coffee.
Yeah. So sorry for interrupting you.
No. Actually, thank you for the mention. So yeah, I work at Diversion. Joined recently. Before that, I was working at Unity for almost a decade. Before that, I worked
almost a decade. I will translate 10 fucking years.
Yeah.
And before we started the episode, you asked if we're using bad words here. So I told that if we really feel like it, we can use it if it's really important. And I feel like 10 fucking years. It's really important to say this.
Yeah, it's a lot. In retrospective, is a lot. When I joined, here's my plan. Here was my plan. I said, I'm going to work for maybe a year, save some money, and then leave and start making my own game. And that didn't happen as planned.
Are you happy that this didn't happen?
I am because I got to travel all over the world, meet a lot of people, play a lot of games, learn about how games are made in different places in the world. So I'm really grateful about the time there and what happened there. During those 10 years, more than once per week, per month, per day, I will go visit a studio and say, oh, I wish I could sit down here and work on this for a month or something.
For a month or so, because later it becomes unbearable.
Yeah. But then you remember after 3 years working on the same thing, maybe you'll be like,
you can't bear looking at it.
No, but I have to say, because we're coming from this world, and basically everyone has the chance to do some cool and fun stuff if they want to. You just need to try doing the stuff. You just need to, I don't know, proving yourself is not a good word for it, but if you're trying to do cool stuff, you will do. For example, Amit, in two companies, in two of his last companies, he was the one who started a new project.
Yeah.
Not other people. So it's kind of it's kind of a swivel. So it's not always boring. Guys, come
it's
work.
Not always boring.
No. And I agree. I think like 10 years here, people will tell me like it's a lot and you do the same thing. I kind of did the same thing, but it's really up to you sometimes to find a new motivation and find the a new project. Yes, I was looking at Unity every day for the past, and maybe you've done more Unity time than that Unity time, like it was jail time. But
with the recent use,
that Freudian
kind of
slip there, yeah.
With the recent use, it kind of feel like this.
But there was always something new to explore. So even if my job didn't require me to go into, I don't know, the dots stack, I could. Nobody prevented me from going and explore that and ask questions and put things together. So
which brings me the question: you had quite an interesting job title, right?
Well, I had multiple job titles.
The most recent one of them.
The most recent was, I guess, developer advocate.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting topic. Could you explain to us what is a developer advocate?
Of course, I can. I can try to explain what it is, because I always say, like, I never thought it was like a career path or anything. So it's like random. It's not like
we're either, because that's why we were surprised.
We didn't even know that that thing exists.
Because from my imaginations is what you did is something we're doing and not getting money for, and you got money for this.
Honestly, that's probably true. Like the job in a nutshell is talking about the product, now Diversion, back then Unity, getting people excited about the new features or getting onboarded, or at least knowing that the product exists.
Talking about the product outside of the company?
Outside of the company, yes, to like users, schools, game studios, government, anyone that was willing to listen to what I had to say. In many cases, like my role was kind of like on the technical end, so it will be like prepare like a demo, prepare like a workshop, prepare like a presentation, and deliver that and get people excited via that demo, not necessarily just talking.
How would you get to companies? Does companies would contact Unity and tell, we need an advocate here? Or
it was the full spectrum. When I joined and Unity, I still think Unity is cool, but when it was cooler, people will fight to have us there. Literally at events, people will be like, please come. Let us put the logo in the event. Let us say that you're coming, and don't even sponsor. Cool. Like just come. As it evolved, people will say, okay, yeah, you can come, but here are the sponsorship packages. So, yeah, but in general, I think, at least from my point of view, people were always open to listen. In many cases, they will say, yeah, you can come and talk about the new products, but I will sit down with the engineers and the CTOs, and they will start with a list of complaints and the list of feature requests. But yeah, that was it. It was not only like studios; it was also like communities going to, let's say, a community in Mexico that gets together to talk about games. I will knock on the doors and say, oh, we would like to support you and maybe talk about something that's useful for the community here. And we will bring pizzas and drinks and just hang out, building that community. It was not only like convincing people or talking about Unity. It was also always about helping people, helping the community grow. Because at the end of the day, if there's no community, or if there was no community, no one will be making games, no one will be using Unity or Diversion or Unreal or anything.
Yeah,
so.
I think one of Unity's main strengths, we talked about it a bit before the pre-interview.
Yeah,
I think that it's super accessible, right? You have all those tutorials, free content that people pull out there, like us.
Yeah.
And a sense of excitement, and that. In recent years, that has contrasted with the Unity, the corporate, after the IPO and everything that happened after that, like 2021 and forward. Or
Yes, it
2022
was during COVID years.
during COVID.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
because before that it was like the hippest engine, and now I see I actually experienced that in communities around me that the hacking nights, right? We
Mhm.
have two of those communities just that I was a part of personally. Like we have one in Jerusalem, like
Mhm.
the game devs of Jerusalem that meet up to dev, and we have a couple of groups focusing on empowering women
Okay.
to develop, and they are all having Godot focused hacking nights now,
Okay.
and
Okay.
not Unity centric nights.
Yeah.
Because
And,
everybody got scared because Unity suddenly said, "Okay, now we're taking your money," and it doesn't matter that the amount at the moment is not too big.
Mhm.
Especially all the change is affecting more the mobile industry and especially hyper casual gaming industry. It does not affect indie developers because so you're adding 1 cent, 10 cents to a premium game that costs $20 or more. It's not that noticeable. But the fact that Unity decided to do that retroactively is making you think, what if tomorrow Unity will say, okay, we're not earning enough from indie developers and we're making this package, the runtime fee costs, I don't know, $10 a game, $20 a game. And the game itself sells for $20. So how do you handle that? So the developers naturally start looking for alternatives. And yeah.
Yeah. I think not everything can be, or everyone can be the leader always, right? Like
in all
at one
categories.
point, yeah, and even like I'm thinking of you like soccer or football?
No,
No,
not really.
Okay.
not
But you
really.
know who Messi is or
Yes,
who
yes,
Cristiano
of course.
Ronaldo is, right?
Yeah.
Like superstars, but at one point there's another person that will be maybe better than them because they're their time was their prime time was over. So I think it's the same thing. As the user base of Unity grew so much, it became more difficult to keep
Mhm.
people happy. So it was always someone that we will launch something that people will love, but these other people will say like that's the worst idea ever.
Yeah.
So
Why
so-
are you not working on X, Y, Z?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like I recently joined those people. Usually I don't do that,
Uh-huh.
but recently Unity announced that there's entering an automotive industry.
Okay.
They're
Yeah.
partnering with Mazda.
I
and,
did hear that.
Yeah. So I wrote under their post in LinkedIn, I wrote, too bad you're concentrating on things other than gaming. And then some, I don't know, director or I don't know who it is at Unity.
Uh-huh.
So he told me that he's leading the team in the comment section. He's told me that he is leading the team that doing this stuff. And he thinks that I'm mistaken, that everything is related, even dots they can improve even with Mazda they will need dots or animation packages and stuff like that, so it's all interconnected, and I'm not buying it.
Yeah, we also joked about how the car shaders will break and you'll
Yeah,
have pink Mazdas driving around.
Being HUD in the Mazdas.
Yeah.
Would they do Mazda with Canvas and UGUI, or they will use UI toolkit?
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, as a game developer, as a gamer, yes, every time not only Unity, every time I see something that I like going in that direction that I don't feel comfortable with, like maybe it's a video game series and then they start moving to, I don't know, like free to play, and I don't like free to play, or going to multiplayer when I like that series to just be like single player.
Or Witcher that's shitting on the source material, doing some weird shit, and then recasting a main character.
Yeah, correct. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's just difficult as a person that feels passionate about Unity internally. I was also a user. And let me go back to the developer advocate discussion. Yes,
Mhm.
my job is to do stuff that many people in the world do for free, which is like delivering sessions and teaching people how to use Unity and getting people excited and managing communities. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's true. Before I joined Unity, I was doing that for free for Unity for a couple of years. So at one
Really?
point, they said yes. I had a community in Mexico City. I was teaching Unity at not necessarily at schools, but to people who wanted to learn. And I had a YouTube channel with Unity tutorials.
Oh, really?
So did that for a while and for free. And then they decided, okay, we're going to pay you for that. But anyway, back to the other thread is we were talking about the automotive and
Yeah, we can shift
Yeah.
the thread.
no. What I was going to say is at one point when I think it was like 2017, and we started saying that other industries were using Unity for like training and for space and for other things. I felt very excited of saying like, okay, cool. This because me as a developer, if I cannot make it in games, then I could work in a different industry. But as it evolved, I felt the same way when Unity or any product seems to shift away from what I wanted to be at. So yeah, for me, I would like them to focus just on games and game development and everything to improve. But
Because Unity is used not only for good things. Unity used for weird shit. Unity is used for movies, which are good, obviously,
Yeah.
games, but it's actually used for simulators in armies, in different armies.
Yeah.
It is used for propaganda games and stuff like that. It used for it's grew up it's so big of a tool that I don't think there is a tool out there that is so used. Maybe the Adobe stuff.
Yeah, but well, it's a completely different content pipeline. If you want something interactive, I think Unity is the most popular stuff around.
Unreal is for professionals, but Unity is used for professionals outside of gaming industry. So you will not see a hobbyist movie maker that will use Unreal. Probably.
I don't know that you have. For example, the most famous example of recent memory is the Mandalorian.
mhm.
Yeah,
the
they're
actual
not
set.
hobbyists.
Yeah, they're definitely not hobbyists. But I didn't hear of I don't know, a live action series using Unity for backgrounds and stuff like that. And
Right, but Unity,
maybe that's okay.
But Unity
Maybe
bought
that's okay.
the Peter Jackson's company. How they
Weta.
Weta.
Yeah.
Right. And when do you think they will fire them?
They actually did announce that they're stopping development or separating, or I don't want to commit to what I'm saying because I read about it one night. But yeah, it's not going anywhere. Like the Weta tools, because it's I believe that's my perspective that in all the craze of 2021 and 2022. After the IPO, they started buying stuff. You know, you get
Same you get
a mountain
with,
of cash.
Yeah, same you get with every company that gets an IPO.
Yeah,
we felt
it was an industry-wide trend. It's not only Unity that did this, and now they're coming down the high of just buying stuff. So they had to refocus on their business, and I think that's one of the main communications that's coming out of Unity. We're trying to refocus and be really great at what we started with.
But honestly, with all that in mind, I don't think we should focus anymore on Unity themselves. I would like to ask a question. What does it take to be an advocate? So who do you need to be in order to start working in this occupation?
I think from my point of view, you have to be passionate about the industry or the software or the API, because I've seen and this is new to me, but I've met advocates that work for Cisco stuff, that work for things that I will consider like I I don't see myself talking about these things. So I think that's the main thing, like that you're passionate about. In my case, games. In my case, also passionate about Unity. That you know the tool because you'll be talking about it a lot. And while I'm not an expert, and I think now I'm less of an expert after I left, but you need to know if I go and visit your studios and talk to you guys. You probably use Unity more than I did back then, right? So if we have a conversation and you say something and I try to trick you, you'll know that I'm tricking you because you use Unity more than I do. So I think it's that. I think it helps to be good at. I'm not saying I'm good, but good at communicating, good at listening. In many cases, many of the users just want to be heard and express what their frustrations are. Not necessarily being a good programmer, a good engineer, a good developer. I don't think that's usually like too important. Although I think it helps if you have the experience saying like
to back it up.
Yes, like okay, I've released a game, or I worked at this studio, or I've done this and that, just to have the credibility. Because I wouldn't trust anyone saying like, okay, yeah, this is how you do the things, and but I haven't done that ever.
Also, I haven't shipped a game like ever.
Yes, especially in the development community. So developers are they're gatekeepers by nature.
Huge egos.
It's not the egos themselves, but it's like if a developer has a manager, the manager has to prove himself that he's worthy, that he's better, and if not better, at least good at what he does.
Yes.
So there is this thing in developers. So I assume, there is a meme when you're coming to a computer store and the assistant there's so do you need help with something? And you think, I know more than you. It would help a lot, I think, if you can back it up with some knowledge when you're coming to talk to developers.
Yeah, for sure. And in other places, I think it helps people who have like open source contributions or projects or these type of things, because helps with the credibility. I'm sure that in 10 years of doing this, more than once people have thought like, okay, you have no idea what you're talking about, and you're like what you presented, it's a bad practice, or I saw that you didn't put the semicolon at the end, and for 45 minutes I've been trying to not scream at you. In many cases, people came to me after the session and kind of like, not everybody was nice. In 10 years, nobody was rude or anything, but people told me, oh, that's not accurate, and helped me say like, oh, thank you, because I thought it was accurate, and I've been saying this for many times, and I didn't know, and nobody told me. So I learned a lot. And the developer advocate role, I think most people could do it. I believe. As long as
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think every you will not become a developer advocate as your first job, right?
I think no, because it will be weird to be young and inexperienced and go out there and tell people how to do things.
Even not in terms of weird, it's that nobody will hire you to do this job, because before you can talk the talk, you should walk the walk, right?
Right.
So I don't think that any job that is kind of a promotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any job that is kind of a promotion, we can say that anyone can fill those shoes. I think every job has the right person to fill it. And in Israel here, I think it's not only in Israel, but the gaming industry in Israel is kind of young.
Mm-hmm.
And many companies that started around 10 years ago, more or less, the people in those companies often promoted because of the tenure. So you were a developer for 3 years and the company grew up. Now you're becoming a team lead. It's not necessarily that you are fit to be a team lead. So this is kind of, I don't want to say sickness here in our companies. It's widespread, but it's not to the point that it's unbearable or something. But I've met a lot of people that are not fit for their job, the job they're occupying. And
and on the other hand, we met many team leads and managers that got there by mistake, and they are awesome managers. They didn't actually want to be managers, but they had to do it. Because someone has to manage the zoo they call a gaming studio.
It's another roller coaster over here that people don't want the job and they're best at it. People want a job and they're awful at it. But I don't think that anybody can become an advocate. I'm telling Unity right now, if you need one, you can talk to my manager. maybe my bosses listen to our podcast as well.
Okay.
So don't listen to this. Don't listen to this. No, I'm just joking. I don't think Unity would want to hire me for such a position. I don't think any widespread tooling company would want to hire me for such a position because I'm criticizing too much. I would.
You do need to hype the tool you're promoting.
But Unity can hire me to become Unreal advocate and vice versa.
Okay.
Maybe it's an internal advocate. By the way, all companies need like an internal critic. An internal critic maybe is not the right word. It needs to spy on what other competitors are doing and just convince people that they're walking in either the correct or incorrect direction, right? You can't be in an echo chamber as a public company. You need a perspective from within other companies or using other products.
But if you're talking about corporate espionage, I don't think that somebody...
Once again, our manager, please, we're not spying.
If you're talking about that, I don't think that anybody would confess in this. So basically, you worked for 10 years for Unreal, right?
I mean.
Yeah. But I think... while I was mostly positive about Unity, also part of this role in any company is to keep your credibility. So I will also sometimes tell people, like, like when we were talking about dots the early days, I was very upfront in saying, this is an interesting talk, this is interesting tech, but don't go out there and plan around this because... the API changed from the morning to when I'm presenting this right now. So 5 minutes ago, I was still figuring out what the hell to do to make this compile. So in many cases, it's just being honest, or always is being honest with people. That was when
careful with words.
Careful, yeah, and in many cases, it's like marketing speech. This role in companies is sometimes part of marketing, sometimes part of engineering, but you have to be careful but also honest, because if I tell you this is the next big thing, use it, and then it doesn't work out, next time I want to talk to you, you'll be like, no,
maybe
thank
not.
you, maybe not. So people who worked with me are also like critics, and whenever you're presenting, you say like, this is not the best workflow, or this is not the best thing that we've done, but we're trying, or saying like, don't
Actually, I think in the case of dots, the honesty was there from the get-go. Like, it was very well communicated.
But
it
got lost
trial
somehow in the end.
Yeah, version 1.0 is definitely still like a beta or early access. It doesn't feel baked.
It's not baked. Basically, at
not
least
full.
There are a couple of things that Unity currently says that dots is production ready. but it cannot be production ready without a couple of things that it lacks. It lacks animations, and without animations, what can you do without animations? So basically, only now when I started to learn dots and when they said it's production ready, and I discovered this thing, now I understand why all of the tech demos Unity displayed with dots were lacking humanoids and stuff. It's always cars. So the animations are basically twins. They can rotate stuff in the midair from the code, but not much for animations. The VFX, okay, we had the VFX graph, we had the shuriken. You could always use that. So the shuriken is for game objects, but VFX graph is not affected by. It's not in a physical. It's directly rendered on the GPU, so it's closer to dots in some fashion. In a way. So we had this. You cannot surprise me with that. But then you see that there are no animations. There are things that are missing. The hybrid pipeline, in my opinion, is awful. They should concentrate on developing a solid pipeline, and I think they do, but the animation stuff, it's got me crazy.
To make a real game in dots right now, you do need to duplicate all your entities to game objects by baking,
or
that's cumbersome.
Or to use some third-party assets that are... I don't like to rely on third-party assets. We had those stuff. So we had a couple of examples. We used Odin. I don't know if you're familiar with Odin.
Super cool, guys.
It's a great asset, but we started in our company in Jelly Button. We used Odin from the version 2.0, and the version 2.0 had a license that tells you that you buy one seat, basically not per seat base. You buy the asset from the asset store, and that's all. Then they released a version 3.0, and they said we're changing the licensing for the 3.0, but you can use the licensing on 2.0 as it was. Something completely different from what Unity did with their runtime fee. So from starting with 3.0, Odin 3.0, you had to pay per seat, and you had to pay for every seat. So if, for example, you have a QA guy that runs Unity once in a month, just to make sure that to see why the automation didn't pass, or I don't know, you have to pay for his seat, and you don't have to pay only for the build machines. The build machines are free. So we had this the situation that we upgraded Unity version, and it broke Odin. Because Odin 2.0 didn't have something. I don't remember what it was.
We just had to upgrade.
So the question was, what would we prefer to do? To get rid from all of the code we used with Odin, or to buy licenses? We had to buy 85 licenses, I think. 85 seats. It's kind of a lot. And we just looked at how many code are dependent on Odin, and said, it would be easier to pay every month to Odin. And when you marry to a framework, it's awful. So me and Amit are married to Unity, for example, right? And then you start using Zenject. And then Zenject becomes Extendject, and then the guy who maintains Extendject tells you, guys, I'm not writing in C# anymore. For a couple of years, I'm maintaining this stuff just, I don't know why. So I'm dropping the support. And now you're stuck with a framework that is dead. And you move to vContainer that is great, but you don't know what will happen to tomorrow. You use UniRX. It's not an advertisement for UniRX. Don't use it.
Maybe it's a counter advertisement.
You use UniRX, and then it's not maintained for 4 years, and you contact the developer, and he says, "Look at those amazing companies that use my product. Go fuck yourself." We had this as well, and
I think to tie this back to what Arturo is doing, I think me and Yuri are strong advocates of not getting too tied to frameworks and tools.
That's a great point. And with what happened recently, and also this is the first time I'm realizing this is the first time I talk about Unity since I left
Outside Unity.
and outside
Oh,
Unity.
really?
Yeah. Actually, in 5 months and outside of Unity, so
Really
feels
fresh.
different, feels fresh, not to feel like attacked
Obligated.
or anything or
Yeah.
obligated to defend or anything.
I think after 10 years, you still kind of feel like you were married, but now you're friends and you don't want to talk bad about a friend.
And also another thing is many of my friends are still at Unity, so I don't, I'm not like I want them to fail or anything. No.
We don't want this as well.
Yeah.
Because
No.
But JR left, so you can talk about him anytime you want.
No, I was going to say that when I started Unity, I was focusing on Latin America. So Unity, I would say it was 99% of market in there. Like everybody was using
Really?
Unity. Then Epic started investing heavily in the region. They said like, this is a key region for us, not necessarily for revenue, but for like market share, for mind share, because they realize that yes, a kid from Brazil is not going to buy a license and is not going to end up working in a studio in Brazil, but will go to Canada, will go to Europe, and he knows Unity, then will go work for studios that use Unity. So they for many years they invested heavily. They had like a ratio of 4 advocates per 1 advocate of Unity in that region, and then you started seeing the shift from heavily Unity to. I still think Unity has more people, but anyway, my point is the competition is great. After more people are using Unreal, more people are using Godot, I think it's great because now people will try to catch up and say, oh, Unreal is better at this, then let's also improve there. Godot is now getting a better community. Let's support the community of Unity or Epic better. So yes, I think not to marry is good. It's difficult because like I felt super invested in my knowledge of Unity, and I feel like, well, what can I do now if the only thing I know is game development and Unity?
I think the knowledge is transferable, but also the competition is great, but it feels recently that the competition isn't there anymore. It's like Unity and Epic are trying to occupy some different areas apart from the movie scene. If I'm talking only about games, Unity are trying to get as much money they can from mobile companies, and Epic Games are trying to bring the AAA companies to their side. So things like taking CD Projekt Red and making Witcher 4 in Unreal. I know they're in talks with many other
is
AAA
Cyberpunk also Unreal?
No, Cyberpunk is the way it is, the way it was.
The red engine?
Yeah,
Like that?
red engine. The way it was because of their engine.
Yeah.
Because this engine, because they're developing in-house, and it's sometimes it's really really heavy. Even the founders of Unity told that they started developing a game and wanted to make an engine to support it, and at some point they felt that they can do an engine but not the game, and this is the story, the legend.
It's a common story among indie developers in general, that they work on the engine so much they say, oh, that's a product. We can sell the product.
Yeah. So I feel that there is no competition. Maybe there is competition from Godot side currently, because many people are trying to go into Godot. Godot isn't quite there yet, but I think thanks to Unity, and we said it in previous podcasts, thanks to Unity, Godot will grow a lot. The runtime fee will help Godot grow.
Yeah, maybe in like 5 years they also have like Godot advocates, paid Godot advocates. But speaking of getting married to frameworks, I think that, for example, the mobile industry is really locked into Unity, not because of choice, but because all the third parties we have to use to actually promote our games are mainly aimed at Unity, like all the frameworks like Firebase, everything ad related, things like Apps Flyer and user acquisition framework, other user acquisition frameworks. We have to use those tools in today's hyper competitive market.
Yeah. You wanna sell stuff. You wanna show ads. You wanna track your users. You don't have this in Godot. You have to
You have zero tools in Godot.
You have to implement it yourself, and well, you can implement it. It's great if you're developing an indie game, but if you're developing a live service game that's supposed to be updated weekly or monthly in 5 or 10 years, it's quite hard to, we often find ourselves that we're not aware of critical updates for the third parties we use, that we discover that we absolutely have to update the third parties sometimes where it's already late. And if you need not only to just press a button and to update, you need actually to go and manually adjust your API calls and stuff like that. It would be impossible, I think.
Yeah.
It will be very cumbersome.
And I think even outside of the game space, is these leaders or monopolies like the operating system, the owners of the stores are just a handful. So we have our libraries on Steam, and then you're somehow also married to your library because everything is there. And yeah, you can go to Epic or you can buy somewhere else, but
buy on GOG.
Yeah. But you're kind of tied there, and they don't make it easy. I'm not sure if because it's not good for business or if it's technically difficult, but to shift your libraries, right? Like say, okay, Steam, I now want to go to Epic, so give me my games, and I want to have there. So
I'm actually a member of a subreddit called F Epic, right? Because there was way back when it was launched, they actually paid game developers to give them a lead.
Yes,
launch there first. I remember the early access period for Hades was there, and I cursed the shit out of Epic because I wanted all my games on Steam. It has been reduced. The hate towards it has been reduced since then. But I'm still bummed that sometimes I buy a game on Steam and only afterwards I say, wait, maybe I do have it on Epic. And I check Epic and vice versa, right?
Yeah. So I myself, as a long-time RPG fan, I'm kind of used to that RPGs are out half-baked with tons of bugs, so I never play on release date. And I remember with Cyberpunk, Amit took a vacation, 1 or 2 weeks vacation.
I wanted to immerse myself for 2 weeks.
And I said to him,
in Cyberpunk,
why are you doing that? It's not going to be good. Even before it was released, and we all discovered how poorly of a state it was in. I know what RPG is hard to develop an RPG. You can have an army of QA guys, and they will work on it, and they will not find everything that the players will find because there are a lot of players, a lot of different approaches, people that don't know how the game is supposed to play, and they don't have scripted scenarios. They will find a lot of bugs and a lot of issues that QA didn't find. So it's kind of a natural. It's bad that it's in this state, and many people would say, oh, in the 90s they would release a polished game, but in the 90s there were not so complicated games. And Heroes 3, for example, the game I like the most, is also not. It wasn't released in that good of a state, so it had to undergo some adjustments over the years, even by the modders. So. I kind of lost. So
my turn of thought.
Amit took 2 weeks, I think.
I think it was 2 weeks. Maybe it was connected to a holiday. I think maybe Hanukkah or something.
So I said, don't do that. It's gonna be shit. So when you're telling me that you were angry at Epic that they stole the release date, I'm kind of relaxed in this term.
But did you enjoy the 2 weeks with Cyberpunk?
Yeah, it actually, no. I refunded the game, but it
okay.
actually refueled my love for Magic the Gathering because they just released Magic Arena, I think. So I spent those 2 weeks like doing other stuff. And I hear Cyberpunk is actually quite good now. So maybe
you
I should
haven't
give
played it. You were so angry that you didn't play it.
I tried to play it like a year after. I got to one of the endings, but it wasn't like the full immersion experience that I wanted to be lost in cyberspace. But maybe that's just a fantasy that can't be fulfilled.
Yeah,
I have a question for you guys. What's your favorite game of all time?
We had this.
For you, it's way easier to answer that.
Yeah, the favorite game is Heroes 3.
Okay.
The most
Heroes
favorite.
of the Storm? Is
No.
Different?
Heroes of Might and Magic, 1999.
Okay.
This is the most favorite, I think.
Yeah.
But I like a lot of modern games. I really think that one of the best games that ever made was This War of Mine. It's an amazing game, and I really like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Breath of the Wild. So there are a lot. Civ, XCOM, Fallout, and every turn-based game there is.
Yeah, well, it's hard for me as well to pick just one. I think I'm going to limit myself to two this time. I think playtime-wise, it's definitely Hearthstone. Definitely Hearthstone. Like I took 2 years off. It's been 10 years already. I took 2 years off and I relapsed again. And now I'm playing Battlegrounds, which is awesome now.
So you got into Battlegrounds?
Yeah. After you
left. After I left. Yeah.
Actually, there's a duos mode right now. But we spend enough time together, Yuri. It's okay.
It's okay. I'm spending a lot of time on the toilet every morning. We can sing that.
Actually, the toilet time goes to Squad Busters right now. But the game I think that affected me the most, that I think about the most, and really changed the way that I look on life in general is definitely Dark Souls. Nothing else.
What about you?
I have my list of top games, but somebody asked me and made me realize that it's Half-Life 2 because it's when I realized, or when my curiosity about like how are these things made. I don't understand how like the physics can be simulated there, and the vehicles and different type of vehicles and like the characters having some sort of lip sync. So I don't know how it was made, etc. But back then, they released like the hammer tools, and there were documentaries around like and tech demos about the graphics, etc. So I will say that's the game. That's probably the game that I played the most, not hours, but times. Like at least every couple of years, I go back to Half-Life 2 and play it again, and just enjoy. So
I think it still holds up, by the way.
What about something more recent?
Something more recent, I think Marvel Snap. I think
so. A Unity game then.
What deck are you running in Marvel Snap?
I haven't played in a year. No, not in a year. Like in 6 or 7 months. Because I never made it to what's the Titan Platinum or what's
Infinite.
Infinite. And I was very close every single time. And my friends were always like, day 2. By the way, I'm Infinite already. And I just felt it became a bit more complex than how I like the games to be, and stopped playing. But it was a lot of fun. It was, I guess, it was a TikTok for gamers, at least on my point of view. It was
kind of fun game. I just got bored at some point because it became too repetitive. I feel like competitive games often suffer from the meta. And each company, each game tries to handle this meta in specific ways. Some companies do it right, some companies does it wrong. And at least while I was playing Marvel Snap, I basically built a deck at the beginning as I felt, and I was almost invincible. So if you're talking about,
that's because you faced bots.
No. If you at the end, I've played for years or something. with almost the same deck with minor adjustments here and there. When you're talking about game like this, you're talking about 60-70% win-lose ratio. It's unbeatable. So with 70% win-lose ratio over the year with the same deck with minor adjustments, I felt like it's lacking something. That's why I left. But the game was fun. The game was really fun.
Actually, the lead game designer for Marvel Snap is an ex-Hearthstone guy, Ben Brode. And at the early days, at the first year, Marvel Snap suffered from exactly the same meta issues that you mentioned as Hearthstone used to do. Right now, it's getting updates, I think, every 2 weeks, and they nerf left and right. Right? They nerf the strong
You're still
decks.
playing?
Yeah, occasionally, not as much as Hearthstone these days.
Amit likes to brag about how he doesn't have enough time, that he has a kid and stuff like that. And then you're telling, you played this and that, and I read this book, and
it's all about multitasking. Hearthstone and Marvel Snap, definitely because of the meta issue, are games you can play while you do other stuff.
Like what other stuff?
Putting your kid to sleep.
Not driving, but when your kid wakes up every 5 minutes, you can find time for 2 minutes matches in Marvel Snap. And, watching YouTube videos, just chilling after a day's hard work at the games factory.
But I want to shift a discussion a bit. We're in diversion offices.
Yes.
And I think it would be right to ask, what is diversion? Because you were an advocate for Unity and you now occupy the same position here, right? Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So diversion is a version control system for games. I'm sure you know, but for those who don't know, games are complex pieces of software that requires multiple people, in many cases, to work together with different type of assets, from code to 3D models to complete Unity or Unreal projects, audio files, video files, etc. And they're required to be merged at one point. Unless you're a single developer, you don't need to do that. You have everything there. But what we do is a cloud-based solution where you invite your colleagues to a project, and then everybody submit the changes to a central place, a central magical repository, and then it gets replicated across the collaborators. We're focusing on making it easy to use because there are other alternatives like GitHub or Perforce.
It's game oriented.
It's game oriented. It's
game development.
Game development oriented. So we're focusing on solving the problems that game developers face. And one of those problems is, since the people creating games are not necessarily just programmers, engineers, usually are artists, designers, people who I don't think they need to know how to open a terminal and type in commands and know complex topics. We're making it easy for all these profiles to be able to contribute and feel safe when they feel safe, in the sense that they are not going to screw up the project for the rest of the team. And in a nutshell, that's what we're building here.
Is it something that built from scratch, or is it using some, I don't know, Git, Mercurial on?
No, it's built from scratch, because the solutions that are out there are kind of like outdated or old, and not necessarily optimized in our point of view to the way games are made in 2024. So it's built from scratch. We're still in beta, so we're the users that we have give us feedback, and then we iterate on that, and then we learn like, okay, yeah, this is what's needed. For example, we released the Unreal plugin a couple of weeks ago because Unreal developers feel like less supported than maybe Unity developers on the version control space. So that's the Diversion. If people want to try it out, it's free. Just go to diversion.dev. And
so basically,
nice.
you're developing a tool, or you're developing a platform as well, like GitHub. So there's a tool, Git, and you have GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab and stuff. You're doing both, if I understand correctly?
It's kind of both. Yes, but the goal is that people don't need to think about like, okay, I'm using Git, but I'm on GitLab, or I'm Git, but I'm on GitHub. It's more like I'm using this thing for version control. I'll forget about it and then just work on it.
Mhm.
The way I see it is kind of like a Dropbox, like
Mhm.
this tool to sync your files, where it just works in the background. It does whatever it has to do, and you don't worry about that. Now,
I'll tell you why I'm asking that.
yes,
Because my initial thought, if it's a tool, then I can have my own repository, and the main concern for enterprise users
yeah,
is that their code would be out there somewhere. So somehow Microsoft managed to convince a lot of companies that it's safe to host their code in GitHub. It wasn't quite there couple of years ago. A couple of years ago, you would come to an enterprise company and they will host their internal Git
yes,
on their
Yeah, it was
services.
out of fear that the company that manages their data won't be there in like
Won't be
10
there,
years.
or pricing wise, because sometimes it's a lot cheaper to buy more hardware to your already existent servers than to pay more money to third-party companies.
Yeah.
That's why I'm asking: is your tool is a cloud-based solution that here it is? You get this is what you get, or can we use the source control system with our internal servers?
Yeah. So to answer the question, is just a cloud-based platform or solution or service. In games, the feedback that we've gotten is that not necessarily the code, people not necessarily care much about the code, but about the IPs. So let's say someone's working with a Marvel brand, they need, because of the contract with Disney or whoever, they need to have everything hosted locally somewhere and not accessible to the internet. So we've been hearing about this need for an on-premise solution,
On-prem, yeah.
On-prem solution. But today the focus is on the cloud.
Right, for
Yeah.
the indie developers mostly, I assume.
Yes, it's for mostly for indies. It's mostly for people who, you'll still be surprised that there are many studios, kind of professional studios, who don't use version control, or they just
No,
have.
we won't be.
We won't be
surprised.
surprised in the smallest. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we had interviewed one guy that was working in a big company for more than 10 years, and when we asked him about pull request, he said, "Pull what?" So yeah, we wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, good. So it's kind of starting there. Indie developers, people at game jams, because I've seen that that's a big struggle for people participating at a game jam, where okay, you do this, you do this, you do that, and then Sunday 4 p.m.
1 hour before the demonstration
Okay,
of the game.
what do I need to? Here's my Unity project, and how do we merge it? So it's kind of like the audience, the target audience. Of course, like there are larger studios, professional studios using it, but in a bulk is, yes, indie developers. We are not necessarily competing like with GitHub on the features that they have, because they've been around for many years, but mostly on the other side, like the simplicity and the fact that we focus on the use cases for games.
You talk about simplicity, and I told you before we started this session that I specifically came here without a knowledge what is a diversion, and I want to kind of flow with it.
Yeah.
So I was thinking to myself, what can you bring to the table? I don't know. I kind of like Git. I was there when we used TFS. I used SVN. I used Git. I kind of like Git, even though I'm not using half of the features that Git provides. I kind of like it. What do you do differently? What is the simplicity? What is the workflow? If I'm starting working with Diversion right now, what is my workflow? How does it different from Git?
The workflow essentially is, you create an account, you sign up, you create a new repository. you add me as a collaborator, and that's it. You don't even need to clone locally the repository. Let's say I'm an artist and I say I don't need the project. I just going to drag and drop my concept art into the repository on the web. Here it is, and then you get that synchronized to your computer. We for example don't have we have this concept of workspaces. So I'm working and things get synchronized to the cloud.
How does
constantly.
it work if me and you working on in the same file?
How do you resolve merge conflicts?
We do have a merge conflict resolution. So this workspace is per person, so it's going to continue updating at all times for me only until I create a commit. Is when it's going to say, okay, yeah.
So there is commits and pushes and stuff.
There are commits. The push is automatic. Like whenever you commit, your changes, your files are already on the cloud. So
like SVN.
Yeah. So yeah. That I was going to say the workflow. So you create that, and if I need the local files, then we have a client. So I download the client, pretty lightweight, and yeah, you have access to the CLI. So if you want to do things via the CLI, we have the desktop app, so you can just do it things visually. And the other thing is you don't need to configure things like Git LFS or anything like that. You can just put any file, any size into the repository, and it will work. So that's the workflow in a nutshell. We do support branches, so you can create a branch and then merge and all those things. I think we lack some important features, but again, we're still in beta. But yeah, in general, the feedback that we have received is that okay, yeah, I've been able to work right away with the project, which yeah, I think not to talk bad about competitors or anything, but like feedback we get from Perforce users. I'm not sure if you've used Perforce ever. It's like, okay, the initial setup takes some time. Usually like big enterprises with maybe an IT team, they have one person who can do that for them, but a small studio who wants to make a game, you don't want to invest time in setting up the environment that you're using. I also have to say I like GitHub a lot. I like the social features that they have. I like to show my contribution graph and things like that. So yeah, but I don't think they are made for, or Git is made for games necessarily.
I have to say that currently I'm working in a company for the first time that allows to use personal account in GitHub.
Okay.
Up until now, the companies used you had to create an account with your company email. And I'm not contributing a lot in my current gig. I'm managing a team, so I'm not
totally
much,
barren.
Much.
It's a barren wasteland.
Yeah.
Mine as well.
So I have the ability to add more contributions to my main account, but I'm not contributing.
Now that I'm thinking about that, one of the moments that I felt bad when I left Unity was that on my profile, you can see the organizations you're part of, and Unity was there. And then one day, I didn't even think about that. I went to my profile and I said, "Oh no, I'm no longer here."
You should get a badge, like an ex-Unity veteran or something like that.
Will be cool. I've seen people on the forums having like the Unity veteran or Unity legend or something. I never contributed much to the Unity forums. Actually, before I joined, I helped more people than after I joined in the forums.
In the forums. Okay.
In the forums. Yeah. No. In general, it's like I joined and I don't help anyone. No. But yeah, that's what we're doing. Right now, it's mostly talking to people all day to hear like, okay, what problems are you having? What things you would like to have? What the challenges are? A lot of great ideas. I don't think we have the time to implement everything, but one of the ideas we recently got were from the way we visualize branches in other version control systems. It will be cool to spend more time in there for like people who like visuals, like an artist, and being able to do all the merging and commits and things like that in a visual way. Well, you said you didn't use plastic, but you did use plastic.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
I use collab more than plastic, but
plastic has, or I'm not sure what it's today, but had a great like visual branch visualization window. So
I'll never check it out, but I believe you. I'll probably never use it.
I don't know. I'm kind of a skeptic in here because, again, I'm trying to convince myself that I need some new shiny tool, but it's kind of hard. It's like GitHub providing me with so much, especially in a team environment. And while you say the setup is costly, maybe for an indie dev or a solo dev, the all LFS, and I can tell you from my experience that in multiple companies, I had to lead you're taking a huge repository that never used LFS, and I had to port it to LFS and to rewrite Git history, and it's a pain in the ass.
But you see, you're just proving the point
that
the organization needs someone to actually manage that thing.
With all that in mind, you do it once, and that's all. So
I don't agree. I feel like the company that we're both working at right now spends so much concentration and effort on making sure we all work well with the tool that we've chosen, which is Git and GitHub.
Yeah, but maybe I need to play a bit with the version. I feel like any tool, not only source control, any tool when you're scaling, when you're bringing a lot of people to a lot of diverse people, pun intended, when you bring in a lot of diverse people to work on a project together on this tool, it will become difficult. So every people has. So for example, I don't know, is there anything that's really special that would convince me, a skeptic here, to come and start working with the version on my personal project?
Please advocate the person.
Because
okay, here's my first time I'm dealing with a skeptic on this role, and it's going to be on video. And if I don't convince you, then I'll get fired.
We'll cut it out.
No,
we'll edit it out.
Look, I'll be honest. I think we're still figuring out what the final product will be like. So for someone like you, I will say the thing to try or to get on board will be helping us shape the future of these type of tools, because honestly we have ideas, we have these plans, and we're implementing, but I wouldn't be able to, even if we're not recording, to tell you like this is how it's going to look in my mind, which might be different from the rest of the team. I just want people to forget about having to merge conflicts, having to do certain things, and just focus on the games. I see it similar to how game engines work today, right? Like if I want, I can write shaders, but if I don't want, I can just use the universal standard shader of Unity, drag and drop a texture, and that's it. And Unity will take care of compiling the shaders for all the platforms. Right. And it's not going to be perfect, but it works. So that's what I want us to solve. The fact that, like in Google Docs, we can collaborate on the same document without really thinking about like
how does it work,
how it's working, or you made a change and then you screw up my format. Like I want us to get there. How I don't know, but yeah, I think we need more people like more skepticals and more advocates to help us shape the product. One thing that I've heard that I think is related is in many studios, small studios, I ask them like, "Oh, you use GitHub?" And the response is, "We have one guy who's the GitHub god. So every time someone screws something up, we go to that person and
Oh,
that person fixes
I was that person for in so many companies. I
the
was
problem.
that person.
But if that person leaves or whatever, it becomes an issue. What they can do is just like, okay, put on fire the repository and we start from scratch, or we roll back.
Hmm.
But for many people, I will say myself included, it's just annoying, the fact that you have to go through that and stop your development. But to say something special today, yeah, being honest is just the fact that we want to build that, but I don't think we're there yet to where we want to be. So
Yeah, if you were, you weren't in beta.
right, yeah. For example, but yeah, that will be my answer.
I think this answer is a lot better than I was expecting. Honestly,
Dude, that's his job, man.
yeah. Right.
Okay,
Right.
so not fired today.
You passed the test, I think. Arturo, before we start to wrap up,
Yeah.
I do want to know, you have orders of magnitude contrast between your previous job and this job.
Yeah.
And that's the size of the company,
Yes,
right? You
yes,
worked
yes.
for a corporate, basically. And now you're, how many are you? Like 10, 15 people? Something
13, I think.
13.
Yes.
So how does that compare? Like, you are advocating for a product that you know everyone that works on it.
It's refreshing because, well, when I joined Unity, we were 300 people. When I left, we were like 8,000 or something like that. So,
Crazy.
yeah, it was a lot of growth. I think, yeah, I can feel the difference. It's definitely different.
Shit gets done.
Yes, and so here's my short answer. I feel less stressed, but I work more at
Yeah.
Diversion. And previously, I worked less, but I was more stressed. And this means in the past, we had full teams to do things like, okay, we need a blog post for tomorrow. If I don't do it, there's a full team of community or advocates who will do it, and things will happen. Here is like, if I don't do it, if I don't do something,
No one else.
no one else will
Yeah.
do it. If I don't say, okay, let's go here, or let's do this, or let's talk to these people. So it's more work. But in the end, it was more stressful. The fact that, okay, if I go out there, like if I give this response, if I gave you this response at Unity, I will be stressed of, oh, did I say something that will put the, of course, nothing that I said will
We'll
change
tank the stock.
the stock
stock
value,
price.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that I have that power. I had that power ever, but I will be stressed about that. About like, oh, that was a mistake. But yeah, that's the difference, and I like it. I like knowing the people. I like being able to just say, okay, I'm gonna visit you guys, and there's no big agenda, and we don't need to necessarily prove like what I'm here, and then presents like KPIs of what I'm spending X amount of dollars in flying to Tel Aviv to meet the team. So it's cool. It's refreshing. It's challenging because, as I said, when I joined Unity, everybody used Unity and everybody was a Unity fan. So my job was very easy. I didn't have to convince people of using, or even not using. I didn't have to explain what Unity was like.
Right.
That people knew. Here is something new, and there are competitors who have been around for many years, who have their fan base. So yeah, it's more work, but it's cool. It's refreshing.
I feel like any tool that is developed for a specific community, and currently we're talking about game developer community, is that bringing a fresh breath of air should be considered and tested, and especially as early adopters. So before Amit called me and said, we have this guy and this company that visited Israel for a week, and it's we scheduled a recording for today,
Mm-hmm.
and ears we have the possibility to talk with you. We've planned to take it easy. We're starting a new season. We've planned to start in Hebrew, in the language that we're used to, and we plan to do it together without guests, and to shake off the rust, and then we're jumping into a foreign territory with speaking in English, and I'm still don't know how it will sound like, and
How bad the echo situation is. Well, our listeners already know, but future Yuri will understand.
But we don't, and I think that when we're going to a new kind of tool that wasn't this thing isn't occupied. I wasn't aware of this company at all before Amit called, and I haven't tried. I told you, I specifically haven't tried the tool before I'm coming, because we used to, like, one is an expert, if I can say expert. One is an expert on the topic, on the subject of the episode, and the other is kind of know what he's talking about. Currently, I'm occupying the kind of territory, so I will definitely give a try. I can't promise that I will use the tool. I can't promise that I will develop something at all in my free time, because I cannot promise it to myself, unfortunately. No, I'm talking about development. I'm venting, I'm ranting. Right, but yeah, go try this thing, and
we need to develop an actual game to use it. It sounds like it's very tailored towards games, and you and I tend to develop just open source packages for Unity.
I'm not gonna promise anything. I'm not gonna promise anything. I'm not gonna promise.
So don't promise anything on air.
We just recently we told you that we were recording an episode at a conference.
Yes.
And there were a lot of guests. Every 10 minutes they will change.
It was in the hot seat technique, right? They would schedule 10 minutes, and then they
so people will just sign up and say, I want to talk to you.
We had a whiteboard, and people would come. We wrote their times every 10 minutes, and people would come and put their name in a time slot.
Cool. We actually got pretty deep in some of those. In those 10 minutes.
And we told so many promises. We came there.
The biggest mistake of the day. Was
we usually telling we're not promising anything, and then we're coming back. We're starting a new season. You come to visit us in one of the episodes, and you come to visit us, and So we're not promising to develop any game.
Yeah. But that's something that we learned today, that you have to communicate and be positive without actually promising anything. You have to be diplomatic, like a Unity advocate.
Let's be an advocate for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So it was really, really, really nice meeting you. It was a really fun experience.
Thank you. Likewise.
And we'll talk some more. Maybe we will advocate for you. Maybe not. We'll see. But I'm really excited about tools specially developed in Israel. I think that our community, we have a small but strong game development community that is growing stronger and bigger with every year. We saw that in the last Gamies conference, that the community shifted, changed, and grew up so much. And we're thinking that specifically in Israel, because of the size of a country that is so small and the population is so dense, tools like that can contribute a lot to the industry overall, because we have a lot of feedback here, especially in the mobile scene, right?
Yeah, actually, something that I remembered while you talked about the accessibility aspect of Diversion, that you don't want to rely on one specific GitHub nerd to be on your team. Just like you don't want to rely, if you're developing an indie game or you're just getting into making games, you do need tools that are more accessible. I was remembering Bolt, that was bought by Unity, and
the visual scripting.
Yeah, and Blueprints by Unreal. Personally, I don't tend to use those tools because I dream in code. Okay, that's part of who I am. That's my DNA. But I don't know, not everyone are born. People are not born
Yeah,
programmers,
Unity
right?
built
Mhm.
their brand because of the easy way in. So you can
Mhm.
in a day or two, if you are not familiar with Unity or with programming
Mhm, mhm.
for that matter, you can in a day or two with couple of YouTube tutorials develop a game. Well, not a game, but a game, right? So this is what this is
You can move some transforms around,
right,
right?
right. So this is what me and you are fighting against
Yeah.
today, so many years later. So a lot of people can easily come into Unity, but then the technical level is staying somewhere down there,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm.
But Unity built their brand with this. It's
Mhm.
working. It's worked for programming languages like PHP, JavaScript that you can easily start doing stuff. Not like Java and C# that you need to install things, frameworks, environments. You can just start developing, and I think that the ease of use that you're trying to enter can contribute. I'm still not convinced that the tool is right, will be right for mobile game developers,
Mhm.
the game as a service. But if you think about that, the indies,
Mhm.
those who don't have this Git guy, IT guy, that just want to collaborate, 2 or 3 people, or even a team of 10 or 20
Mhm.
can be it can help them a lot. And to finish, you mentioned Dropbox.
Yeah.
I have an anecdote on Dropbox. So I'm using it till now. It's basically
It
the
was hosting the podcast,
the,
Okay,
the
good, good.
source
the
material
source for the podcast.
because the cheapest solution out there currently. And I used Dropbox for a lot of years. When I started as a developer, I used this.
Mhm.
It was around 15 years ago and stuff like that, and something like that. So somewhere around 10 years ago, I worked in a company where we used SVN as a source control for our backend code,
Mhm.
and it was in PHP, and I was the .NET developer. I develop integration tools. I was a single developer. I hadn't had anyone to work with me, so I thought I don't need source control. I will use Dropbox.
Uh-huh.
I will sync everything with Dropbox, and there are no people with me. Dropbox had versioning. It has till today, and as a single developer, I will use that, and it will sync. And one day there was a particular bug. I think it's the worst bug from my whole career because I spent like 3 days trying to solve this bug. It wasn't reproduced consistently. My program was running and then it was crashing. That's it. So non-consistent crash. I wasn't able to catch the crash in the IDE. Then I discovered that I can turn some settings in Visual Studio that will catch crashes. From external code, from internal .NET code. It was long before .NET was open source.
Mhm.
So I turned on this feature. Some friend of a friend mentioned this, and I see that I'm in some kind of a file lock issue. What happened was my program was trying to write a log,
Mhm. Mhm.
and the log was located in Dropbox. Dropbox would lock the file to sync it, and it would crash. I'm trying to write into a locked file, it would crash the program. So when you said you want to do something easy as Dropbox,
Yeah, yeah.
this is the first thing. Yeah, you understand that it happened around 10 years ago. It still haunts me.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
don't do it easy like Dropbox. Do it complicated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
making products idiot proof is not necessarily does not necessarily mean that the product is simple.
Yeah. So thank you a lot for being here.
No, thank you. Thank
And
you.
maybe we'll meet again in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope I can come back to Israel. I think 5 days were not enough explore, to experience. But yeah, thank you for switching the language. I really appreciate that. I hope one day we can communicate in Hebrew. But
Your
for
Hebrew
now-
is getting better.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I went from 0 words to 3 words in 5 days. So impressive. But yeah, no, thank you, and thank you for the conversation. I had a lot of fun, interesting, and yeah, I hope people found this interesting or fun at least.
They will. They have
will.
to.
They will.
They have to.
So everybody have a nice morning, noon, evening, and bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.